Hey guys, it's Miss Kingdom here. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is science. I really like science because we can actually see it happening. We can see it happening on a big scale outside, or we can make it happen on a small scale inside or in our classroom. Today we're specifically going to talk about the water cycle. So the water cycle is just this never-ending circle for where water moves from the land to the sky and from the sky to the land. It's just continuously moving. It never ends. So there are 5 phases of the water cycle. Those phases are precipitation, just shown here, infiltration, here, transpiration and evaporation, and then finally condensation, which is what this picture shows as water vapor. Those are our 5 phases of the water cycle. So the first one is precipitation. Precipitation is when water falls from the sky. So water can be in the form of, most of the time what we see here is rain, but it can also fall and be snow, sleet, or hail. So there's different types of precipitation, but basically it's just when water falls from the sky. Okay, the second phase of the water cycle is infiltration. So think about when it rains, water falls from the sky to the ground. But what does the water do? It doesn't just go away. The water has to go somewhere. So most of the water, when it rains, infiltrates into the ground's profile. It goes below the ground's surface. And so when it's in this stage, this is an important stage because water may then move to maybe to like a pond or a lake or a stream or a creek, or it's going to go on down and it's going to hit our groundwater. This is an important part of infiltration because we need that water to replenish or recharge the groundwater system, which a lot of times is where we get our drinking water. Now, our drinking water is cleaned from the groundwater. We don't just drink straight the groundwater, but it does go through a cleaning process. But we need that infiltration so that the rain or whatever form of precipitation goes through the ground so that it can replenish our groundwater. The third phase is transpiration. So like I said, once water infiltrates, it either goes into that groundwater that we talked about, or it moves underground and is taken up by plant roots. So you can see in our picture, transpiration is the movement of water through a plant. So as the water moves through the plant takes what it needs, and the rest of the water goes to the plant surface and is then evaporated. So evaporation is the next phase of the water cycle. And evaporation is when our liquid water turns into water vapor or water molecules that we can't see in the air. So it's that vapor. So evaporation comes in the form, or it happens either once water has transpirated through the plant and is on the plant leaves, then whatever water's there evaporates into the sky, or water evaporates from the ground surface. So once water is infiltrated, that second phase, if it is not taken up by the plant roots and it doesn't go directly to the groundwater, a lot of times it makes its way to a creek or a pond or a lake or the ocean, and it's in a large body of water. And then from that large body of water, the water evaporates. It turns from liquid water to water vapor we cannot see. And that's why on this picture right here, it just has squiggly lines and arrows pointing up, because we can't actually see that water vapor. But that's an important process because the water in the water cycle, it has to get back up to the air, to the atmosphere, to the sky somehow. So that happens through evaporation. Then our last phase is condensation. So now that the water vapor is in the sky, we can't see it, somehow it has to turn back into liquid water so it can come back to Earth's surface. And that process is called condensation. So in condensation, the water vapor goes high up into the sky and it gets cold. And when that water vapor gets cold, it turns back into liquid water. The liquid water then attaches to like dust and smoke particles in the sky. It forms a cloud, and when the cloud gets heavy enough, precipitation falls back down to the earth and the water cycle starts over. Okay, so now we're going to do an experiment of the water cycle. So this will be fun because it's a way for us to take the water cycle that happens on a large scale outside and turn it into something small that we can see indoors. Okay, so we're gonna need several different supplies for this experiment. So you're gonna need a Ziploc bag, just a normal sandwich size Ziploc bag, a Sharpie, a fourth a cup of water, some blued food coloring if you have it, and some painter's tape or masking tape. Before you go gather all this though, make sure you ask your parents for help and make sure you ask them if it's okay if you do this experiment. So we're gonna be making a water cycle in a bag. When I say pause the video here in a second, pause it, go find your materials, and come right back. So pause. Okay, so are you ready? I gathered all my supplies. I have my Ziploc bag and my Sharpie. I have my fourth a cup of water, some masking tape, and some blue food coloring. Okay, so what you're gonna do on your plastic baggie, you are going to draw a scene of water and clouds. If you wanna add a little bit of land and add some plants so we can see possibly our transpiration stage of the water cycle, you can do that as well. So just go ahead, and I'm gonna do this quickly, and draw just like an earth scene, okay? So I'm gonna draw my sunshine. I'm gonna draw some clouds. I'm gonna draw some water. I'm gonna draw a little bit of land over here with the flower. Okay, so this is what my bag looks like. I don't know if you can see that, but I have the sun and the clouds, the water, some land with the flower. Okay, so once you have that drawn, you're going to open your bag and you're going to pour the fourth a cup of water in your bag, okay? So it should fill the bottom of your bag. Then you're going to take your food coloring if you got it. If you don't have food coloring, that's completely okay. This experiment will still work. The food color just makes it easier to see. And I'm just going to add a few drops, 2, 3 drops of food color into my bag. I'm going to close my bag back up. It should be all mixed up. You can shake it if you want. All mixed up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this, you're going to peel you off some tape, put some tape on the top of your bag, and go put it in a window somewhere. And this is, once again, you're going to need to ask your parents for help to make sure you're using the right type of tape and you're putting your bag somewhere where they're okay with you putting it. But once you put some tape on your bag and you put it on a window, all you're going to do is you're going to sit there and watch it. And it may take several hours. You may not be able to see the full process until tomorrow. But the water will start to evaporate, where it turns from this liquid water to water vapor. And you'll see it in the bag. And then once it gets heavy enough, in the cloud, remember, it condensates. So condensation is where the water vapor turns back into liquid water. And it's going to rain or precipitate back down in the bag. So just watch your bag to see how this works. On the previous slide, I showed you a website where I got this experiment, but it also offers some things that you can do to look at the experiment. So look and see, how does light affect it? Does more light make this happen faster, slower? Does it not affect it at all? Look and see, does the temperature, if it's hot outside, is that going to affect this bag more than if you put it in maybe a window that doesn't get much direct sunlight? And then it said you can also look at, does the amount of food coloring make a difference? So if you're going to test this with the amount of food coloring, you can make 3 different bags. One where you don't put any food coloring at all, one where you just put maybe 1 or 2 drops of food coloring, and then one where you put 4 or 5 drops of food coloring. And see, how does it affect your water cycle? So if you want to keep a little science journal on this, that would be great. Keep a science journal and either write what you see. Maybe, every 3 hours go and look what you see. You can either write it with words or draw it in pictures, but that would be a fun way to keep up with the water cycle. So thanks for watching this today, and I hope you enjoyed our water cycle experiment.